guest was an independent journalist on January 6th, and he and Ian Anderson have something in common from Jennifer Hotel because he stood on a park bench and tried to get better pictures of what was going on inside the Capitol. Well, then he became a part-timer at Glenn Beck's The Blaze, and he did some awesome work. He basically exonerated the Oath Keepers by following the videos that he took years to uncover and dissect. His relentless investigations of J6 is going on. He essentially proved again that the Capitol police officers lied under oath, and he's now been, I guess, put to full time over at The Blaze. This Glenn Beck is what his bloody worst mouth is. So I'm telling you, he is just getting started.
Roll it, gentlemen.
Our first guest speaker is so articulate and well-versed, he's often asked to speak on other popular talk shows.
Tell me how much of your videotape that you have, it's pretty much all available, right? You're not hiding anything.
No, I'm not hiding anything at all.
Stepping onto our stage next is Steve Baker, a journalist affiliated with The Blaze and a J6 defendant. Steve offers a distinctive fusion of reporting and personal experience in the realm of political matters. Through his work, Steve provides insightful perspectives on contemporary issues, promising a thought-provoking and engaging presentation. Let's welcome Steve Baker.
Thank you. I'm probably going to open with the most unusual first statement of anybody you've ever heard that was very politely and very well accommodated and invited to an event. Oh shit, guy was not here. I got a text this morning from one of my associates and he said, happy anniversary, happy third anniversary. This is not a happy anniversary for many individuals, certainly not for me. And it didn't begin on January 6th for me. But before I get started with, actually, I don't have my prepared notes any longer because just moments ago I threw it away. But I do want to welcome, if there's probably somebody here tonight that nobody knows. I don't know who he is. He knows who I am. He knows who you are. He's in the crowd. He's following us. Because they're always here. I used to say that very statement when I was touring Europe as a 20-year-old kid. And we used to, because my band that I was in was working with an organization that smuggled in supplies, recording them with tape duplicating machines, things of that nature into the Soviet Union and other Iron Curtain countries. And as we were touring in Europe, working usually through translators, interpreters on stage with us, and I would say, it's amazing that 43 years later, I'm saying the same thing before I get started again. I would welcome the KGB to the room and thank them for being here. I welcome the FBI, wherever you are, for being here. I welcome the sedition hunters for being here. 2 days ago, the sedition hunters, I don't know if they were trolling or not, but they were posting the flyer to this event, and they were saying that they were going to be here. Did you see anybody else see that? Then they were also saying they had a long thread of people. Of course, most of them were just yucking it up. They may have been just trolling, as I said. But the bottom line is that they are watching. They're doing an entire dossier on me right now. It's really kind of cool, though, because I know what's going to happen when they might be in charge of me. I know exactly what they're looking at, what they're looking for. I don't know if you saw yesterday, but Officer Harry Dunn, B, hero of the day, Presidential Medal winner, Congressional Medal winner, book deal winner, because that's a win, a now congressional candidate, Harry Dunn, announced it. And I became obsessed with his story on October 3rd, the very first week of the first Oath Keepers trial. And I'm sitting in the courtroom. Actually, I'm sitting in the media press room pool. downstairs. And before the jury was brought in that morning, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Nessler approaches the bench. And he says, "Your Honor," speaking to Judge Maida, "Your Honor, we have a rogue attorney by the name of Jonathan Mosley who is about to release 2 FBI 302s to the public. Both of these 302s are under court seal. The 302 is the transcripted, not transcripted, but basically the FBI agents, federal agents' counting of that interview. And he said, we can't have that. It's under seal. These are sensitive documents." And Judge Maida then looked into the camera that feeds the video and the audio down into the media room. And he addressed the media. None of us had ever seen that happen before. And he said, "You guys down there in the media room," he said, "you tweet out and you tell Jonathan Mosley that if he releases those 302s, I will have his ass, I will have him in contempt, and I will put him in jail." And all the other mainstream media people that were sitting in front of me, because I always sat in the back right-hand corner every day, because about half the time I was writing about them anyway. And so, it's another story. CNN, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, UP, Guy, AP, Reuters, et cetera, all sitting in front of me, about 25 of them. And when Judge Maida said, "You tell Jonathan Mosley, I'll have him in contempt," they all giggled. And I responded slightly different, not out loud or non-verbally, but in the quietness of my mind, I went, "What's in those 302s? What does the court, what does the Department of Justice, what does the FBI not want America to know about? What do they not want those 12 jurors to know about?" And then that became my obsession for the next year. And I found a way to get my hands on those court-sealed documents, those 302s. Those 2 interviews, those 2 FBI interviews, were of none other than the hero of the day, Harry Dunn. And in Harry Dunn's first interview in May of 2021, what he said was that he actually had a very positive experience with those 4 vote keepers that lined up a line of protection in front of him. And we've seen the videos. I posted this still shot many times of Kenny Harrelson holding his arms out, holding back more agitated of the rioters, protesters, whatever you want to call them, and keeping them off of a much more agitated and distressed officer, a 6'7", 350-pound man with an inbore automatic rifle who was ready to use it and had already threatened to use it just 2 minutes before down in the crowds of the Capitol. And so that was his first testimony, is that it was a positive experience. But then the Star Chamber was formed. You don't know what a Star Chamber is? It's basically a council, a committee, a group that decided how are we going to frame the Oath Keepers? And how are we going to give Assistant USA Jeffrey Nessler the means by which he can look at that jury and he can tell the jury over here and then point at the side defendants and say, these people were the leaders that day. These 5 defendants right here were the tip of the spear of the insurrection. Even though none of those Oath Keepers were even on the property yet, when the decal was preached, they hadn't even arrived yet. They were sitting down at the ellipse watching Trump's speech, and they were there at the invitation of the Secret Service. And then they had their protectees, the people that they were escorting over, the VIPs that were going to be speaking on 6 different areas that were legally permitted, signed off on events, actual protest events, signed off on by the Capitol Police leadership itself. And so they had to figure out a way in that Star Chamber meeting to make that charge stick. So what they had to do is they had to bring Mr. Harry Dunn back in again. So they brought him back in August of 21 for a second interview. And in that second interview, he flipped that story 180 degrees over. And he said that it was a highly antagonistic event. I misremembered in my first interview. And that those 4 oath keepers tried to get past me and tried to get down that staircase that I was guarding when I'm a big man. And I said, no. And I kept it from going down there and harming other officers. That's the difference between the two interviews. And the Department of Justice, the judge, did not go on the jury to see that change in the story, because on October 31st, Harry Dunn would testify in that trial. And he would testify to his second statement as being the statement of fact. The second officer that testified immediately after him, his name was Special Agent David Lazarus. He was on Nancy Pelosi's security detail. And they needed him to come in, and they needed him to bolster this kind of shaky testimony that was already there from Harry Dunn, just in case those 302s got out. And so what they did is they had him lie on the stand. And he said, I saw Harry Dunn's interaction with the oath keepers 3 or 4 times as I was coming up and down those stairs and going across the hallway through the crowd of agitated and violent protesters and going in and rescuing between 11 and 12 of Pelosi's staff members. This is what he said under oath in the courtroom. But then I got access to the 41,000 hours. Myself and my team of the Blaze, we have been very fortunate, very blessed to have had more access than any other media organization so far, more than Tuckerhead, more than anybody else. I can tell you how many man hours, how many days we have been in that room. Sometimes we've had all 3 consoles that they make available there. If you go into the Capitol, Congressional office buildings, we've had them to ourselves for as long as we'll be at times, okay? And we were able to get in there, and we were able to find the video of Special Agent David Lazarus, who said that he saw the interaction between Harry Dunn and the oath keepers, quote unquote, trial transcript 3 or 4 times, except he couldn't have, because when that interaction began, he was across Constitution Avenue under the tunnels in one of the Senate office buildings. We found the kill shot. We found him working his way away from the Capitol through the tunnels. We found him over on the other side. We found him coming back through the tunnels. We find him roaming around the bottom side of the other side of the Capitol. By the time Kelly Max, Hymax, Kenny, and the other one who took a plea deal and testified against them, say his name. By the time Lazarus made it back to that staircase, those guys were already out of the building. We have the comparison of where Lazarus was, what was happening with Officer Dunn, before oath keepers, their exit side by side. We presented that to the world. And now the mainstream media and the government is ignoring that evidence, ignoring and embargoing that. But there's more coming. Because this isn't the only thing we've found on them. I will tell you, without telling you what it is, but this story has come. Both of those officers who perjured themselves under oath, we now know that neither one of them ever should have been allowed to testify in that courtroom, because both of them have disciplinary actions against them previously in their career with the Capitol Police. They both committed what are called terminable events. Both of these officers should have been fired from the Capitol Police years ago and then they would have never, not really been cattle on January 6th, but even if they had been, that information under most of discovery, Brady would have been required to be turned over to the defense teams. But not only was that information never given to the defense lawyers in this trial, the video itself was not given to the lawyers in the defense trials. Because there's 1,700 plus cameras in the Capitol complex. Only about 650 of those cameras were made available to the defense teams. But it's all there in the viewing room. So we have a lot more coming. And I know that I didn't talk about what I said I was going to talk about. But let me just go ahead and finish up the last couple of minutes I have. I'll go back to what was supposed to be the title of my discourse today. And that is this. In March of 2020, the government weaponized me against them when they took my main job away. I've been a lifelong touring musician, and I wasn't allowed to play for almost a few years. 2 weeks became, what occurred, became 2 months, and then I kind of could see the writing on the wall. I could read the tea leaves. I could see where the government was taking this, and I knew I better change over. So basically my hobby of political writing, commentary for 25 years, I moved that to the captaincy. I took my musical career, put that in the co-pilot seat, and I started going after what the government was doing. They weaponized me at that time against it. And then January 6th came along, and I was there with my backpack, a tripod, and a manless street microphone like this to interview people after these speeches were made and get their impressions of that thing, and my camera, of course. But the story didn't unfold that way in that day. The story unfolded completely differently. And like 60 other independent journalists and mainstream journalists, credentialed, uncredentialed, freelancers, stringers as they call them, like those other 60 that passed through the doors of the Capitol that day, I was one of those. But unfortunately, I didn't title my first article like Luke Mogelson of the New Yorker did, where he said in his title, "Among the Insurrectionists." See, if I had been smart enough to do that, I wouldn't be facing the charges that they're about to lay on me. My attorney received a phone call just 2 weeks ago. I was sitting in Thomas Massey's office, and I received a text from my attorney. He called me right away. I stepped out into the hallway, and he said, "Okay, well, we've been waiting on the Brett for 2.5 years. We're going to go pilot it. And so you're going to have to self-surrender yourself next week in Raleigh." Well, the blaze kicked into high gear. God bless them. God bless Glenn. And they made a massive amount of noise about that. And then they backed off within 36 hours. So now they're saying it's going to be in the middle of this month. And so I'm going to get to be a J6ers then, it looks like. So happy anniversary to me. But we're coming after them. Because my work is going to continue. Blaze's work is going to continue. And I don't know if you know what a dead man switch is. All the work that I've been doing for the last couple of years on this, they have it. So if they put me away, they put me under a gag order, it's still going to come out. So don't worry about that. Thank you very much for having me.